Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, where we are presented, as always, by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Excited to have everybody in on the program today. Saying hello, Wayne Neely here, Calvin White there, our producer behind the scenes, making the magic happen is the one and only Mark Rogers. Calvin, good afternoon. How we doing?
I'm doing good. We're in the home stretch of the regular season for football, and at least for me, postseason volleyball and soccer started last night, so ramping up on that coverage. But your daily weather update. This is what rain looks like. If you forgot what it looks like, but got some much needed rain and amping up on our volleyball and soccer coverage along with football.
Absolutely, and it's funny, the timing, right? Hadn't rained for 2-3 weeks, it feels like, and then you just mentioned we've got postseason action for soccer. Luckily, no severe weather, I don't think, necessarily in the forecast, but the timing is kind of ironic. Doesn't impact volleyball, of course, but you're right. Calvin, it always is a mind trip, we'll call it. I could use a different word, but it's a little bit of a mind trip every year. We spend all this time getting ready in the summer. All of your sports are cranking up at once, and then poof, in the blink of an eye, you're in the home stretch, as you said, for high school football, but then your district tournaments and your postseason action begins. I mean, golf is already underway at the state tournament level. I mean, things just fly by, and then you kind of look around like, where the heck did those weeks and months go, it feels like.
Yeah, compared to last year, I feel like for football, for me, it felt like football just drug on and on last year, and now we're already in week 8. There's 3 weeks left in the regular season, and then depending on who makes it far in the playoffs, football might be over for some of us here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it could go in the blink of an eye. So if you are a pigskin fan at the high school level, savor these last couple of weeks as we cruise down toward the final end of the regular season. But that is part of the puzzle as we put things together today. We got a big show lined up today, folks. They're all big, really. But, I mean, man, we have a lot to talk about over the course of the next couple hours, and looking forward to accompanying you guys on that journey as we navigate. Coming up in the second hour, we will talk with our good friend, as we do each and every single Tuesday, Chip Walters, MTSU Blue Raider voice. Middle is back in action on the gridiron tomorrow night. A little midweek dose of CUSA action. It's not Maction, but it's close enough. It's the CUSA version. We'll talk Chip, with Chip, I should say, as we kind of navigate all of the Blue Raider waters, who kind of like high school, Calvin, are kind of winding down the stretch of some of their sports in terms of conference play. So Chip will set us straight there. We'll get into the grab bag. We got a lot of stuff in the grab bag coming up in the second hour as well, folks. We'll talk NCAA. We'll talk NFL. There was a major, and Calvin pointed this out, so we wanted to make sure we get this in the show. There was a massive NBA announcement that we have to tell you guys about. Kind of some, the decision of all decisions is what a lot of folks are talking about on the internet today. So some big NBA news that we'll get into a little bit later. We'll also discuss briefly the WNBA Finals, which continue tonight, Game 3, coming up tomorrow night, I should say. But we'll get into it a little bit with Calvin as we continue here. And then finally, we'll close the show. Calvin, this should be a fun one. Imagine you are hosting a dinner party and you have to invite 5 guests from the world of sports. That's kind of the theme for today's Top 5 Tuesday, powered by our friends at Columbia Power and Water System. Top 5 sports-related dinner guests, and that could be a number of different avenues. So looking forward to going through that with you coming up in the second hour. In the first hour, we will talk a little Major League Baseball. We'll give you a This Day in Braves history nugget, but we'll also talk about the actual postseason that's going on right here in 2025 as the AL Series resume. One of those games, as a matter of fact, will get underway during the course of our show this afternoon. We'll also get you guys caught up on what happened last night in the the NLDS matchups there. But in just a matter of moments, our good friend Steve LAYMAN from News Channel 5 will join us, and we can take Steve a number of different directions, Calvin. We will talk Titans. We'll talk other NFL news and notes. We'll talk Vanderbilt, Alabama. What does Vanderbilt do? Kind of where do they go from here? Some other big takeaways that Steve had. That's the beauty of having Steve on, Calvin, is we can kind of steer him in a number of different directions as well, kind of like the show that we have lined up for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, he's kind of like Chip. We can just give him a subject, and then he can tell us everything we want to know, plus some on that topic. So obviously we've got a lot of different topics lined up to talk with Steve about. So excited to talk to him later.
Should be fun. Again, Steve LAYMAN and Chip Walters will be your special guests here today as we get things lined up. Again, Chip at 3 and Steve LAYMAN coming up in just a matter of moments at 2:20. So that's kind of a lay of the land, setting the table, if you will, for the course of today's show. Calvin, with all that being said, let's hop in and get this thing cranked up. Without further ado, let's give the folks last night's results. Let's give everybody today's schedule. Let's bring you guys the rundown.
This is the rundown.
And we do go to the rundown, and we do start with those Monday night results as promised a moment ago. I'll take volleyball to crank things up here as BGA knocks off University School of Nashville 3-0. It was Forest 3, Battle Creek 1. Franklin Road Academy with a 3-0 victory over Davidson Academy. Middle Tennessee Christian also in straight sets over Friendship Christian. Gallatin with a 3-0 win versus Portland. Providence Christian and Good Pasture played a 5-setter. Providence Christian winning that one 3-2. We saw some sweeps last night. Collinwood 3-0 over Hampshire. Beach defeating Hendersonville 3-0. And Loretto by the same score over Perry County. Other volleyball scores. Santa Fe with a 3-1 victory over Moore County. It was Station Camp 3, Mount Juliet 0. Lewis County 3, Mount Pleasant 0. Murfreesboro Central, that's Murfreesboro Central Magnet, blanking Giles County last night 3-0. Smyrna did the same to Laverne. Smyrna, however, had a second match last night, and this one was a little more competitive. They had to outlast Wilson Central 3-2, but Smyrna with 2 nice victories yesterday. Other scores, final scores, as a matter of fact. Spring Hill with a 3-1 win over Cascade. Warren County with a 3-2 victory over Stewart's Creek, and Stewart's Creek also had a second match. They did follow up with a 3-1 victory over White County.
High school girls soccer action. Hillsboro downs Cane Ridge 4-1. Watertown and Jackson County draw at 1 apiece. John Overton wins 9-0 over Hunters Lane. Antioch and McGavick draw at 1 apiece. Liberty Creek shuts out Springfield 8-0. Kirkwood beats Rossview 4-1 in the District 13 AAA semifinals. Rossview had won 3 straight district championships before last night. Clarksville beats Northeast 6-0. Kirkwood and Clarksville will play for the District 13 AAA championship over here on Wednesday in Clarksville. In Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Phillies 4-3 in Game 2 of the National League Division Series. And the Milwaukee Brewers beat the Cubs 7-3 to take a 2-0 lead on the Cubbies in that divisional round. And then the NFL, on Monday Night Football last night, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Kansas City Chiefs 31-28.
More on that game, folks, coming up in just a matter of moments. But for now, we go to your schedule for today. And volleyball action begins right now, as a matter of fact, showing a 2 p.m. First touch for Cookeville and Smyrna. Again, Cookeville and Smyrna set to tangle at 2 p.m. today. Got a couple of matches beginning at 4 o'clock when Warren County travels to Lebanon and Murfreesboro Central Magnet is at Spring Hill. 4:30 showdowns as Santa Fe will meet Eagleville and Green Hill will tangle with Beach. 5 o'clock first serve for Lewis County versus Loretto. Franklin Road Academy at Middle Tennessee Christian. Now on to 6 p.m. as Shelbyville is at Columbia. Fayetteville will meet Culleoka. Station Camp taking on Gallatin. Tullahoma at Lawrence County. Collinwood meeting Summertown. And a 7 p.m. showdown tonight as BGA will meet Providence Christian.
Back over to girls soccer. The University School of Nashville travels to Clarksville Academy today at 4:30. Cheatham County is at Liberty Creek. Montgomery Central is hosting White House Heritage. Middle Tennessee Christian is at Watertown. Gallatin at White House. Kip Nashville is at Tullahoma at 6:30. All of those previous games were at 6 p.m. And Franklin County is hosting Dixon County tonight at 7. Major League Baseball postseason action. Game 3 between the Seattle Mariners and the Detroit Tigers. First pitch is set for 3:08 today. For that one, you can find that on FS1. And Game 3 between the Blue Jays and the Yankees is set for 7:08 p.m. That game is also on FS1. Ladies and gentlemen, those were your scores. That was your schedule. And that concludes today's rundown.
To the top story we go, ladies and gentlemen, as that top story, sorry, dropping a note in our production log there. Top story brought to you by our fine folks at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Make sure that you check them out. Make sure that you check them out. You can catch them from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. for your delicious daily deli lunch options. They also offer hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Once again, Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill over in Columbia presenting our top story. And Calvin, you kind of teased it a moment ago. I want to peel back the layers of the onion just a little bit here. But Monday Night Football last night, capping an interesting week in the NFL. And we saw an interesting game last night as the Chiefs make a little bit of a rally, only to be outdone kind of at the death by the Jaguars. Yes, the Jaguars, who are now 4-1. Mo and I talked about it yesterday, should be realistically 5-0, if not for a kind of fluke ending to the game that they dropped to the Bengals earlier this year. But Calvin, a 31-28 victory for the Jags over the Chiefs, who are now 2-3. What, if anything, kind of caught your eye or made your eyebrows kind of raise a little bit off that result last night?
Well, I think it kind of goes both ways. I don't think anybody would have expected the Jaguars to be as good as they have been this year. Trevor Lawrence has been really good this year. And kind of on the flip side of that, the Chiefs are obviously not what they have been over the last couple of years. Patrick Mahomes is still obviously very good, but, outside of really Travis Kelce, he doesn't have many weapons to work with, kind of compared to those years when they were cruising to Super Bowls when they had, Tyreek Hill and Kelce in his prime and actual weapons on the outside for Patrick Mahomes. And Chiefs aren't what they used to be, and right now the Jaguars and the Colts are kind of competing for that AFC South title right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And we kind of broke this down yesterday on the program that with Nubias Wilborn, one of our two guests yesterday. The AFC South, kind of a laughing stock traditionally, but also oddly home to some maybe under the radar, if nothing else, quality teams right now. You mentioned the Colts. We're sitting here talking about the 4-1 Jags. The Texans have suddenly, make of them what you will, but suddenly, if nothing else, they're improved, and the Titans have finally won a game. It seems like the AFC South is on the little bit of a come up, but the angle that obviously the nation is kind of going to gravitate toward too is, Calvin, the Chiefs are sitting here at 2-3. They fall to 1-2 on the road, and I'm still not even really close to writing this team off. They are going to have to literally be eliminated from any sort of real contention before I'm going to get burned by kind of writing them off. They got too much talent. They're too well coached, in my opinion. But these are games that we're used to seeing the Chiefs win, and these are not games that we're used to seeing the Jaguars, come away victorious. So much so, Calvin, as producer Mark has found a clip for us, so much so that classic Jags fashion almost played out last night. They're driving late. It looks like they're going to win the game, and they go to hand the ball off at the goal line, so it seems, and then this happens.
Has to get up, breaks a tackle, touchdown Jacksonville.
Troy Aikman virtually speechless there, Calvin. I think a lot of folks were, because Trevor Lawrence falls down. Yeah, he just splat.
Goes down, has to get
but
up,
picks himself up,
breaks a tackle, touchdown,
runs in. His second rushing touchdown of the night. I was watching this live, Calvin, and I'm just thinking, what kind of bizarro world am I living in where the Jags, classic Jags, right? That even when they have it the way they want it, it looks disastrous, but somehow, some way, Lawrence picks himself up off the mat, scoots into the end zone. The Chiefs try a couple of last-second throws downfield to maybe get into field goal range, but they can't do so. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Jags, just how you drew it up, right, Calvin? Trevor Lawrence taking a tumble and then running in for his second rushing touchdown. That's how you drew it up for your game-winning score, I would imagine.
Yeah, and kudos to the offensive line. He fell down twice, and still nobody was able to get to him. And he's down on the ground. All you got to do is touch him to get him down, and nobody was able to get to him after he fell down twice, and then still ran through a couple of guys to get to the end zone. But the AFC South's been one of the worst divisions in football over the last couple of years, and now we're talking about the Jags and the Colts at the top of it, and the team that's won the division the last couple of years, and the Texans don't appear to be very good. That's probably the team that most people pick to win the division by multiple games, and I'm sure everybody expected the Titans to be bad. But now we're kind of looking at the script has flipped a little bit. The teams that have been bad in the division over the last couple of years have kind of taken a hold of it through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, in terms of record, right? I mean, you got 3 4-1 teams sitting there in the AFC, and 2 of them are from the AFC South. And again, make of these teams what you will, talking about the Jaguars and the Colts, but the Jags and the Colts are tied with the Bills sitting there again at 4-1. And so, I don't know, Calvin. And, Nebias even referenced it yesterday when Liam Cohen gets brought in. It was such an odd and awkward departure from Tampa Bay. But we know what great things he kind of did for that offense the last couple of seasons, especially last year. Then you had the infamous, press conference where we really don't know what that was the weakest Duval chant, I think, of all time. But somehow, some way, Cohen. I saw somebody frame it like this last night, Calvin, and it struck a chord with me. Some folks are saying that Liam Cohen is kind of dragging this kind of corpse or whatever the Jaguars roster is. We still see Lawrence making some boneheaded plays. We still see some deficiencies, but Cohen's coaching is kind of rallying them and getting them to where they are at the moment. And they're not probably going to win the Super Bowl by any means, but they're sitting here at 4-1, maybe should be 5-0. And it's kind of odd that we're talking about them as the key takeaway from this game and not the Kansas City Chiefs for a change.
Yeah, and I remember when the Jaguars hired Liam Cohen, as far as I can remember, I don't think that he was like a top target for a bunch of teams to be a head coach. He had been obviously with Tampa Bay, like you said, last year, but was a college coordinator for a couple of years. And I heard somebody compare Liam Cohen and Brian Callahan on the radio this morning. Liam Cohen's won 4 of his first 5 games as a head coach, and Brian Callahan's it took him, I think, 22 games to get his 4th win. He's like 4-18 right now. So whether he's dragging the roster along or not, the Jacksonville Jaguars are winning games right now.
Yeah, kind of crazy how all this has come about. Hey, and you mentioned, by the way, and speaking of Titans fans, this is just one more jab, I guess, at the Titans fans. Liam Cohen, you mentioned his college coordinating experience and his college kind of quarterback development experience. Folks may not remember or recognize, he was at the University of Kentucky, and there was a certain Titans quarterback by the name of Will Levis who was kind of right there in the midst of that stint. So kind of unusual twists and turns. You are right. This is not necessarily, I think, at its surface, the coaching hire that a lot of folks thought might be one of your top hires this offseason. But here we are as the Jags do defeat the Chiefs. And Calvin, on the flip side, are you pressing the panic button on Kansas City at this moment, or are you kind of like me still waiting to deploy that perhaps?
Unless they show us something, soon that gives us reason to panic, I don't think that with their history there's any reason to count out the Kansas City Chiefs until week 17. So until they give somebody a reason to panic majorly, I'm not going to doubt the Chiefs too much at this point.
That's kind of where I land. And yeah, I'm going to have to see it before I really believe it. I'm probably going to have to see it a couple times. And I'm going to need to see an E next to them as far as eliminated before I truly believe. I still think they're going to be in pretty decent shape. But the road is not necessarily easy, Calvin. Here's the Chiefs' upcoming schedule. They got the Lions at home Sunday night. Should be a mammoth showdown. They got the Raiders in a divisional game next Sunday. That game is at home, though. Then they got the Commanders, but then they go to the Bills, to the Broncos, and then home versus the Colts. I think we will learn a lot more about this particular KC team as they kind of navigate that stretch. Meanwhile, the Jags have the Seahawks, the Rams, Raiders, Texans, and Chargers all kind of still coming. So the picture will undoubtedly sharpen over the next couple weeks between these two franchises. But last night was certainly a wild one, ending on that crazy, crazy touchdown. Thanks to producer Mark Rogers for getting us our video there of Trevor Lawrence, the rushing QB that we didn't know we needed, Calvin. 10 carries, 54 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including that crazy one at the finish last night. Again, 31-28, your final from Monday Night Football. That was our top story, presented as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. We're going to step aside for a quick timeout. When we come back, our good friend from News Channel 5, the one and only, folks, Steve LAYMAN will be in the saddle with us, breaking down all things Titans. We'll also talk a little other NFL/NCAA football with our good friend. Once again, Steve LAYMAN on the other side of this timeout. Folks, you're watching Main Street Sports Today, where we're presented, as always, by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back, boys and girls. Opening hour of Main Street Sports Today, rolling right along. We're presented, as always, by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, alongside Calvin White. Wade Neely here, saying hello on this good-looking Tuesday. We teased this a moment ago. Let's not waste any more time, Calvin. Let's bring in our good friend from News Channel 5, Steve LAYMAN, dropping by to talk a little Titans, a little NFL, a little NCAA. We love Steve because he's a man of many talents. He can take a combo a million different directions. But before we do all that, we just like to say good afternoon, Steve. How we doing?
Hey, guys. Good to be with you as always.
Glad to have you. And Steve, from the realm of, we're so used to the Titans, and this is why we can't have nice things. The roles were completely reversed on Sunday as Arizona kind of gave the Titans a little bit of a gift. What did you take away? What did you make of what we saw out in the desert on Sunday?
it was kind of refreshing to see the shoe on the other foot, right, Wade? I think the biggest thing that I saw in that game was the moment that Amari DiMercado fumbled the ball through the end zone, and as opposed to an automatic touchdown for the Cardinals and Arizona going up 28-6, and essentially putting the nail in the coffin on that game. It's 21-6, and the Titans have the ball back. From the moment that happened, I thought to myself, okay, the door is slightly open here. That's the type of mistake that you have to take advantage of to get yourself back into the game. They go down the field and they score. So now they are back into the game. And the moment that happened, I said, okay, that's the type of swing that even a moderately good NFL team takes advantage of. And they find a way to turn that into a victory in this game. And of course, they get the unbelievable interception turned game-saving touchdown later on as well. But the bottom line is the Titans made enough plays in all three phases when they had to in that game to finally win a football game for the first time since the week before Thanksgiving last year. And they deserve credit. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it good enough going forward? No. But it was good enough to get a win. And my gosh, did this franchise need a win, something they got on Sunday in the desert.
Absolutely. Couldn't have really said it any better. And, there was an immediate discourse on socials Sunday, oh, well, Arizona gave them the game, or, it just didn't feel like there was much of a celebratory mood. And I'm looking around like, hey, have we not seen this team for the last, 10 plus weeks, last year and a half? I mean, you got to celebrate anything is grounds for a celebration in my mind. This one obviously fits the bill.
I agree 100%. It's difficult to win in the NFL. And how many times during that 10-game losing streak did we watch the Titans do similar things that Arizona did to essentially gift the game to the other team? Now, I think the Rams and the Cardinals, and the Colts, were significantly better than the Titans. Obviously, the Texans were in that shutout game. But you go back to week one, I think the Titans played toe-to-toe with the Broncos in that game, and they forced enough turnovers and did enough things that, quite frankly, they probably should have won that game on the road, if not for some absolutely terrible mistakes on their end. And so we've seen the Titans gift games to their opponents and make mistakes plenty of times. It's about time it comes back the other way. And again, once you get those gifts, you have to take advantage of them. And this time the Titans finally did that. So yes, they need to celebrate finally winning a football game. I appreciate the attitude. There was no day off on Monday saying you guys finally won a game, take the day off, enjoy it. We'll see you on Wednesday. They were right back in making corrections, saying, all right, guys, it's great to win a football game. Let's enjoy it. But we have a lot of work to do to get set to go take another road trip out west this weekend and then the games to follow. This team has to get better. They're not very good, and I think they understand that. But still, enjoy the moment, enjoy the win, because it's really difficult to win in the National Football League.
Steve, I don't want to say that this takes Brian Callahan fully off the hot seat, but do you think that, especially with this win and a beatable Raiders team coming up, that this kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off him?
Well, Calvin, I don't think it takes him off the hot seat, but I can tell you this. There were a lot of people in the third quarter of that game saying, this looks like the final game of Brian Callahan's tenure with the Titans, much like I think they were doing in the fourth quarter the week before in Houston and probably at the end of the Indianapolis game as well. And then they win the game. So obviously he's safe for this week. If he wins in Vegas, that would probably make him safe another week. At this point with his record, I don't know, especially with the track record of the Titans organization. I don't know if you can take anything from 1 week and extrapolate it out that, like, now that he's won a game, he's bought himself X number of weeks down the road. But I will say this. They went into the year expecting there to be patience required with this team and with a rookie quarterback. I'm not saying Brian Callahan is the long-term answer. He's still got a lot to prove himself. But what kind of patience would you show if you fire Brian Callahan 5 or 6 weeks into the season and force Cam Ward, who's already onto a second play caller a month into his rookie year, forced him to then have a different head coach in the building. And by the way, then that almost certainly means a new head coach and new offense for year 2. Not that I think Brian Callahan's likely to turn this season around, but I do think the Titans should be as patient as possible to let the continuity play out until it simply cannot play out anymore for Cam Ward's sake this season. Maybe you see a move later on, but to me, I think they'd be wise to let this play out at least a few more weeks, maybe a month or more, before they make a move, just for that reason. Because you can make a move whenever and the result is still the same. But once you make the move, there's no more way to rock the boat in this season, and you're forcing Cam Ward, his development is the biggest story of this season, to go through another huge change early on in his career.
And, Cam Ward, he wasn't great for the first 3 quarters of the game on Sunday, but he really kind of turned it on in the fourth quarter, completed those 2 big passes to Calvin Ridley toward the end to kind of set the Titans up for that game-winning field goal. But, Cam Ward's completion percentage is, just a little over 50% right now. And you mentioned he's on his second play caller already as a rookie. What do you think the Titans have? Obviously, part of this is receivers dropping balls, but what do you think the Titans have to do to maybe kind of get Cam Ward and the receivers and the offense as a whole kind of on the same page?
Well, hopefully what they did in the fourth quarter and finding a bit of a rhythm there has a carryover effect, either in the rhythm that they had or at least in the confidence moving forward. But, Calvin, you're exactly right. I was sitting there at halftime of that game, and I said, this is the worst we've seen Cam Ward play to this point. And the accuracy has to be a concern. You talk about the completion rate, it's near the bottom of the NFL. That's got to get better. His timing, his accuracy, and frankly, throwing a catchable ball is something that he has to continue to work on within this offense. And what I mean by that, guys, is getting it out on time, putting it in the right placements, and knowing the correct amount of zip or touch that you have to have on the football. Drew Brees was a master of that. He didn't have the biggest arm, but his timing and his accuracy was impeccable. Joe Montana was great with those types of things. We've seen other quarterbacks. Tom Brady certainly did that throughout his career. Conversely, Brett Favre is also a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he didn't throw a particularly catchable ball. You hoped it stuck to your hand as hard as he was throwing it. And Cam has a bit of that gunslinger mentality where he thinks there's no throw he can't make. And we need to see him get the ball out on time, take what's there. Even the first play the other day was a rollout where Chigakonkwo was wide open for 4 yards. And he looked and looked and looked downfield until there was nothing there. Just take what's there. You don't go broke making a profit. And Cam Ward needs to learn that lesson early on in his career, that sometimes the best play is the on-time 3 or 4 yard pass to keep you ahead of the sticks. I'm not saying that's what he did in the fourth quarter because the Cardinals changed their defense. The Titans went up tempo. I'm not sure all of that carries over. But hopefully the rhythm you saw there in the fourth quarter and some of the defensive passes, the laser down the field to Calvin Ridley, the sideline ball to Ridley, the touch pass to Gunnar Helm down there at the 1 yard line, some of the short balls to Chigakonkwo. Hopefully the variations of those types of throws is something he can carry over to help him moving forward.
And, you mentioned Amari DiMercato fumbling the ball out of the back of the end zone. Obviously that was a big turning point in the game, but we've seen this a lot in the league over the last couple of years, and we've seen a bunch in college too. Why do you think so many guys do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. And Brian Callahan, if you listened to him yesterday, said, I have no idea either. I never played running back or wide receiver or something. Certainly wasn't fast enough to be out in front of people in the way that DiMercato or Deshaun Jackson back in the day was when they got close to the goal line. The only thing I can think of is spatial awareness in a major stadium, or maybe looking at the Jumbotron and you think you're closer than you are. I don't know, but it's inexcusable. And as Callahan said yesterday, we constantly preach to our guys, letters and logos. When you're running to the end zone, you grip the ball as tight as you possibly can until you hit the letters of the team name or the logo in the end zone. And then you're okay to drop the ball. And obviously, DeMercado didn't do that, and so he becomes the latest guy that gets shown on Friday night tape around the country for college football or in the NFL, where coaches say, guys, these are situational plays that come up around the league or around the sports. Be better than this. Watch this, see it, don't do it, don't repeat it. Or know this situation and be better when it comes to Sunday and you play. And unfortunately for the Cardinals, it was a really bitter pill to swallow. Fortunately for the Titans, it was a huge play that swung the game.
Huge play that swung the game. Steve LAYMAN, our good friend from News Channel 5 Sports, breaking it down. And Steve, I'm kind of more on your side that you kind of alluded to a moment ago. If I'm ever in that position, I'm not hitting the end zone often at all, if ever. You're going to have to pry that football out of my hands before I'm even thinking about. And DeMercado is the guy that I referenced on the show yesterday. You know, he's getting his opportunity to shine due to an injury to James Conner. You would assume that kind of fits that similar mold. Hey, this is a guy that's not really getting that many spotlight or primetime opportunities. You want to cash in, and instead he finds himself a real kind of laughingstock, unfortunately, here.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but my next touchdown would be my first major touchdown. Mm-hmm. And so I'm with you. I'm not letting go of that ball. It's high and tight all the way back to the bench, the oxygen mask, and an equipment guy coming over to take it and mark it for safekeeping later on. So, yeah, I don't understand it at all, but obviously it's happened more than several times now across various levels of the sport, and it's just something you got to be mindful of if you're a ball carrier.
It was certainly to the Titans' benefit. Talking again with Steve LAYMAN here, breaking down all things Titan. Steve, let's flip the sides of the football for the Titans real quick. We've obviously, at least the last 2 weeks in particular, I think even the most casual fans, if they weren't realizing how good of a season that Jeffrey Simmons has been producing thus far, they're well aware now. But another guy that really has jumped out to me, what can we attribute to the 39 tackles in the last 2 weeks from Cedric Gray? Is this a guy that is really rising to the occasion? And could this be a guy that the Titans maybe build around in the future, or are we just seeing him kind of right place, right time in your mind?
I think it's a great story of growth and opportunity as well. Last year, he really only played one game at linebacker because of the injuries and the course of the season for him. And it really hampered his development. This is a guy they believed could come in and be one of their linebackers of the future. Last season didn't go as planned. He entered the offseason behind James Williams. He entered training camp behind James Williams. And they kept praising Williams throughout training camp for his play, which tells you that Cedric Gray won the job. He wasn't given the job out of necessity. He won the job with his play. He's got good attention to detail. He's really good at shooting the gap against the run. He's a solid pass rusher in blitz packages. And I think he's maybe been better than expected in pass coverage to this point. And right now he's just making plays. And so it is a really nice development on this team. Another thing we should say about the game on Sunday is, by and large, the best players on the Titan played like the best players on Sunday. Jeffrey Simmons was incredible. L'Jarius Sneed played well. Cedric Gray played well. You go to the offensive side of the ball, Cam Ward did it in the fourth quarter. Calvin Ridley had his best game. I think Tony Pollard ran hard. The offensive line had its best game of the season. Chigakonkwo showed up for them. Players made plays for the Titans for really the first time, and Cedric Gray falls into that category. And by the way, guys, as bad as it has been this year, there are some bright spots. Jeffrey Simmons may be on the short list for Defensive Player of the Year right now in the league if his team wasn't so bad. Cedric Gray is playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level. Chimere Dike leads the league in all-purpose yards right now by something like 150 yards. Now, part of that is the fact that he keeps returning kicks because the Titans give up so many points defensively. But still, that is a really positive sign for a rookie that you took in the fourth round. And so there are some positives, even in a bad start, a 1-4 start for this team, where you look at individual guys that are playing at a high level.
And finally, Steve, let's close on the Titans. Obviously, another big trip out west. They have to take on the Raiders, a team that I was really high on coming into the season, and they looked great week one. Boom, and then they've dropped 4 in a row. The Titans, the complete opposite, obviously, coming in on the heels of that victory, their first of the season. How does this game go in your mind on Sunday out at Allegiant Stadium?
It's a good question, and I think the biggest thing that I see, guys, is can the Titans win the early downs defensively? I think the Raiders have been a big disappointment. They were excited about Pete Carroll and Geno Smith coming in there. I don't think Pete has had the impact people thought, and Geno kind of has the yips a little bit as a quarterback right now because he's getting hit a ton, and the reason is similar to the Titans. They have struggled on early downs, which has put them in 3rd and long a ton, which has put a lot of pressure on that offensive line and therefore Geno Smith. So can Jeffrey Simmons and that front win the early downs and put them in 3rd and long situations? Flip side, on the offensive side of the ball, can the Titans avoid that? I think the team that plays in front of the chains the most in this game has the best chance to go down the field and score points. I kind of like the Titans just off the momentum they had in that game in Arizona the other day. Meanwhile, it was 41-6 in Indianapolis for the Raiders, and I think they're a real mess at the moment. We'll see what happens and if any of that momentum can carry over to Sunday. But to me, those early downs and who wins the line of scrimmage there to set yourself up for advantageous situations, either short yardage 3rd down situations offensively or defensively obvious passing yardage situations where you can pin the ears back and get after either Geno Smith or Cam Ward. I think the team that does that the best has the best chance to win on Sunday.
I think you're right, Steve. And before we let you get out of here, Steve Layman, our good friend from News Channel 5. Steve, we'd be remiss if we didn't break down what we saw from Vanderbilt in their loss. Hard-fought loss. The final score a little bit misleading thanks to a late touchdown from the Crimson Tide. What did you take away from Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, and company in their effort down in Tuscaloosa Saturday?
Yeah, Wade, I was in Tuscaloosa on Saturday, and I went into that game thinking it was one of the more intriguing games of the entire season. Because I think I knew after the Georgia game where Alabama stands. They look like a playoff team. Whether they actually get there or not, they are in the group of teams certainly capable of making it to the college football playoff. My question with Vanderbilt, as good as they looked in a 5-0 start, how good is South Carolina actually? Virginia Tech doesn't look very good. They've already fired their coach. So this, to me, ultimately became the real test of whether Vanderbilt is a good football team or a team that could potentially fight for the college football playoff. And despite the fact they lose 30-14, I walked away impressed at the way they played that game for at least 3 quarters, if not into the 4th quarter. And if you take away a couple of red zone turnovers, which were very uncharacteristic by Diego Pavia, that is very likely a 20-20 game. Basically, as you start the 4th quarter, and that still doesn't mean they win the game there. I think Alabama was getting a bigger edge at the line of scrimmage as the game went along. They won the time of possession, and I think they ultimately wore that defense down. But I think Vanderbilt showed that if it avoids the turnovers and plays the game the way they want to, time of possession, controlling the line of scrimmage, win the turnover battle, they can beat anybody in the country. Alabama, LSU in a couple weeks, Texas, Missouri, the teams that are coming up on the schedule. Now, it's really difficult to do that week in and week out, as we've seen forever in the SEC. Sometimes you go have a huge win, but the toll that takes on you to come back and fight the next week and get another result against probably a team that's equally as good, maybe better, is a really difficult challenge. But I think Vanderbilt showed that it's in that group that's going to battle week in and week out in the gauntlet that is the SEC to see if they could be one of the 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 teams out of the SEC the way it's going right now that could ultimately get to that championship 12. And I tell you what, I thought they were the underdog in Alabama. But if I look at the stretch here, it's hard But when you look Texas, LSU, Missouri, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, are they automatic underdogs in 2 of those games? 3 of those games? I don't know exactly where it falls, but I don't put them without a chance to win any of those games. Be difficult to win them all, but I think they'll have a chance to go play any of those teams and come out with a win.
I think, yeah, and if nothing else, we're kind of robbed. The intensity will still be there, and the vibes will hopefully still be as high. But could you imagine LSU and Vanderbilt getting it on if Vanderbilt had been able to pull that game off? West End will be jumping in 2 weeks. It'll still be fun. But like you said, Steve, to that point, it does speak, and we hear this each and every single week considering our geographic location. But, I mean, just Vanderbilt's schedule alone, you just rattled off. LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, make of what you will of Kentucky, but then Tennessee mixed in there. Vanderbilt, as big as that Alabama game was, they have an equally, if not more, daring gauntlet down the stretch here.
Well, and that's the fun thing of the 12-team playoff era, right, guys? Is in a 14 playoff era, that would have almost been eliminated for Vanderbilt to lose that game. There truly is no more margin for error at that point. Well, now when you're playing for one of 12 spots, just go make the corrections, come back, and get ready to play another huge game. And you win that one, and it gets bigger and bigger as you move on down the stretch. I think it's going to be really fun. And one of the stories, I know a lot of people have talked about Texas and Penn State and how big of disappointments they have been to this point. Maybe both out of the playoff picture, certainly as we stand right now, and maybe for good. But I think it was sort of a foregone conclusion to a lot of people that Penn State was going to be a playoff team out of the Big Ten. That coming into the year, there was going to be Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and maybe you'd find a 4th team of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, maybe USC, something like that in there. Well, take Penn State out of the equation here. I think Indiana's probably replaced them, but the question there is there a 4th team? Can Illinois, after losing by 53, come back and run the table maybe, or at least get to 10 wins to give themselves a chance? Could Michigan get to 10 wins to give itself a chance? I don't know. And if that's the case, well, maybe now you're looking at a Big Ten. While I think those top 3 teams are really good, maybe all better than anybody in the SEC right now. But after that, do they get a 4th team? And if they don't, the SEC may very well capitalize. I truly think this could be a year where you see the SEC with 5 teams in the playoff, and then it becomes real fun to see what could happen from there.
Yeah, just pure mayhem. Just sit back and kind of almost watch it unfold. Steve, since you mentioned them, we'll get you out of here with a fun segment we like to do every time we have you on. We'll frame it this way, though. Ohio State is favored by 14.5 at Illinois and Champaign this weekend. We'll start with this. Do your beloved Illini cover? And then, if so, how much of a chance do they have to maybe get a little gamey for an upset this weekend?
I'm going to say they cover, but I don't really like their chances in this one based off of what I've seen from the defense here recently. A lot of it has to do with injuries, but they have really just been picked apart in the secondary too much against quality opponents. They've been unable to get off the field on 3rd down against quality opponents so far this year, and that's going to be a huge problem against Ohio State because we all know how good that Ohio State defense is, giving up 5 points per game so far this year, despite all the guys they lost to the NFL last year. Now, Illinois' offense is elite. Not enough people are talking about Luke Altmaier, who's in the top 5 in the country in every offensive passer statistic and does not have a turnover yet at this point of the year. Hank Beatty leads the country in all-purpose yards. He should be the all-purpose first-team All-American. Nobody even knows his name at this point. So Illinois has an offense that I think can test Ohio State, but it's going to be the best defense they've played up to this point. And so I don't think they're probably going to score 35 or 40 as they've been doing against seemingly everybody else. And so the question is, how good defensively can they be against Julian Sayin, who looks incredible for a freshman, and that incredibly talented receiver core? I think Ohio State has too much ultimately for Illinois, but I'm going to go the fact that it's at home It's a game that a lot of people have had circled on the calendar. I think this is a ball game into the fourth quarter, and I'm going to say Illinois covers.
I like that, and I think everybody will appreciate that because a lot of folks, like to see Ohio State struggle a little bit, but also, it'd be nice to see, a little extra drama as we come into the fourth quarter on Sunday. Steve Layman, our good friend from News Channel 5. Yes, sir.
Well, Wade, I was just going to say, that's the thing we haven't seen in the Big Ten yet, really, with the exception of Penn State falling by the wayside. Nobody's really challenged Ohio State, Oregon, or Indiana. And so that would be the thing. If Illinois could rise up this weekend, or obviously either Indiana or Oregon is going to get a loss, then you start to see a little bit more of the jumbled mess in the Big Ten that we've already seen in the SEC. Again, I don't expect it to happen in Champaign on Saturday, but it would definitely put a big shakeup into the Big Ten race and ultimately the playoff race if it did.
Absolutely. We're here for the drama, Steve, so sign us up for all of that if that's how it perhaps unfolds this weekend. And we look forward to breaking things down as we do all the time with you. Steve Layman, our good friend from News Channel 5. Thank you as always, partner.
Anytime, guys. Wade, Calvin, we'll see you.
Thank you very much. Once again, Steve Layman joining us, and we will catch up with him next time. Hopefully his beloved Illini can, the Michigan fan in me would like to see Ohio State squirm a little bit, if nothing else, in that game on Saturday, Calvin. So looking forward to that. We got some big ones across the SEC. Obviously, you got the Red River rivalry, which doesn't quite have the luster that it did this time last week, but we certainly have Mizzou and Alabama, which I can't believe I just said out loud, certainly Missouri. The fact that they're in the mix playing well as they are, kind of like Vanderbilt, just not quite, the brain just doesn't quite fully grasp or comprehend all of that just yet, Calvin. But good stuff there with our good friend Steve Layman, once again from News Channel 5. Calvin and I are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will have a quick segment. We will talk MLB playoffs as we close the opening hour of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Day in Braves history, October 7th, 2018. The Braves avoid elimination in the other NLDS matchup with a 6-5 win over the Dodgers, marking the very first postseason victory at SunTrust Park. Lost my spot here. There we go. The Braves put up 5 runs against Walker Buehler in the second. Big blow being a grand slam by rookie Ronald Acuna. But the Dodgers then tied it up 2 runs in the third, 3 in the fifth. They had a potential go-ahead run thrown out at home in the sixth. Freddie Freeman Yes, that Freddie Freeman put the Braves, ahead with a homer off of Alex Wood in the sixth. And Andrés Vizcaíno got a nerve-wracking save, striking out the final three after he put on two men in the ninth. Calvin, there's a lot to unpack there on that day from 2018 in Braves history. I'm not used to seeing or thinking about rookie Ronald Acuna, and it's been a long time since I thought about Freddie Freeman in a Braves uniform. But role reversal going back to 2018 for the first time in the postseason. They're getting a win at the new digs.
Yeah, it's hard to think that Ronald Acuna Jr. was a rookie 7 years ago, and that grand slam he hit early in that game it's one of the more iconic Braves postseason memories over the last couple of years, and that was also just one of many times over that stretch that the Dodgers got the better of the Braves in the playoffs. Fortunately, the Braves got their lick back in 2021 to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs and eventually win the World Series. But rookie Ronald Acuna Jr. Kind of gave everybody a glimpse of what he eventually would become, and Freddie Freeman had another one of his big standout moments in his career as a Brave.
Absolutely. And yes, I said SunTrust Park because they didn't rename that bad boy to Truist Park until 2020. So a lot to unpack there on this day in Braves history back in 2018. Calvin, as we get ready to close the top of the hour, you keeping tabs on the NLDS matchups? We saw the Phillies fall yet again to the Dodgers last night 4-3. We saw the Cubs fall yet again last night to the Brewers 7-3.
Yeah, right now the Phillies are in, or Phillies and Cubs, I guess, are both in, danger mode right now, especially the Phillies, I would say. If you're the Phillies, you have to take at least one of those games at home before you go to Los Angeles, and now you're going to Los Angeles down 2-0. I don't know what the pitching matchups are, but it feels like with the Dodgers, it doesn't even matter. I feel like me and you could go out there and throw some innings for the Dodgers, and they'd be able to put up some runs and win some games. But Cubs, we talked about it for multiple weeks and even months on this show that the Brewers looked like and were statistically the best team in the sport over the last, month and a half of the regular season. And right now they're playing like it. They've just put 2 absolute beatings on the Cubs so far. And, it's going to be interesting because, the Phillies and the Cubs were 2 of the more dominant teams throughout the season. The Phillies were right there on the Brewers' heels for best record in baseball. And it's really going to take some wind out of those fan bases' sails if they both get swept in the divisional round.
Yeah, I was hoping for a little more from those 2 respective series, and maybe we'll get some, but right now it looks like they've already been decided. Some Nashville Sounds flair to yesterday's game, at least for the Brewers, littered throughout the roster, but 2 in particular. We saw Mizorowski get the win, 3 innings, striking out 4 batters before they turned it over to the bullpen there and got it done. But also Jackson Chourio with a 419-foot dinger out to center, a 3-run bomb in the 4th inning that really kind of blew the game wide open. Milwaukee was already up. Chicago, let the record show, Chicago was up 3-0 through the top of the first. But 3-3 after 1 full inning, right back in it were the Brewers. They take a 4-3 lead in the 3rd. And then Chourio with that bomb in the 4th inning to put the game to bed. Finally, Calvin, the AL series we're set to resume play, but turns out Mother Nature might be a factor. Mariners and Tigers, I'm showing currently listed in a delay at the moment, so we'll see if and when they get that game in today. That series is tied 1-1. Blue Jays, meanwhile, looking to sweep the Yankees. They are up 2-0. It is in the Bronx, and obviously we're on alert if you're a Yankees fan, but real quick before we close this first hour, what are your thoughts on our American League matchups?
Yeah, Yankees obviously have an advantage at home, but the Blue Jays did what they needed to do and won both of those first 2 games at home. They've obviously got not as much pressure on them, but they can relax a little bit if they happen to drop one. But kind of like the Brewers and the Cubs, the Blue Jays have put 2 beatings on the Yankees through the first 2 games. And what's the other Tigers? Tarek Skubal went yesterday, and Tigers lost 3-2. So we'll see if the Tigers can kind of bounce back and win 2 more games without their ace.
It's going to be fun, and we'll keep you guys. If that game resumes, we'll get you a score before we get out of here. If it does not, then make sure you catch Calvin and David on tomorrow's show as we give you the results from the American League Division Series, which both games should be dandies, but we'll see how the action unfolds tonight. That is a wrap on hour number 1 of Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, hour number 2, and you know what that means, folks. On a Tuesday, the one, the only, our good friend Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, will stop by for an update on all things MTSU related, including a big football showdown taking place a little earlier than you might expect. So come on back, folks. Hour number 2 of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, begins right now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen, on Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Rolling right along, he's Calvin White. I'm Wade Needley. On a Tuesday, that means we bring in and we turn our attention to Murfreesboro, where all things Blue Raiders is the focus for the next little bit. Our good friend Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joins us. Good afternoon, Chip.
How are you?
We are doing great. Thanks for asking. Calvin and I, we're looking out the window, though, and there's some sort of strange something falling from the sky that we've not seen for a long, long time, we noted earlier.
It's a frog strangler over here right now. And but the good news is this is all going to move out of here by the morning, and it's going to be football weather tomorrow night, about 70 degrees at kickoff, 62 by the fourth quarter, and clear skies during the game, which will kick off at 6:30 tomorrow night. And, you know, you can tell, obviously, we're getting later in the year. I looked it up, and sunset tomorrow is 6:19, so that'll be 10 minutes before kickoff. So it'll be dark, and the lights will be in full effect, and hopefully a good show under the lights from two teams that are both looking for wins, and I think two pretty evenly matched teams, to be honest.
It should be a fun one, Chip. Before we go any further, that made me think. I always like to pick your brain from a play-by-play standpoint here. Open air press box. Are you a big fan? You open the doors at every opportunity. What's your flow there?
Well, my initial thought is yes, I like to have the window open or a window open. But as I've gotten older, I've decided that sometimes, I don't necessarily want to be a hero. That's and I think what broke me from that was a game in Bowling Green. It was a Saturday night game in November several years ago, and in the old press box, which faces northwest, which means every bit of wind is going to come straight in at you. And the thing is, in the old press box at Western, they don't. You had these garage doors that came open, and you had no control over. You just had to grin and bear it. This year we moved, or actually last year they moved into a new press box on the other side of the field, but it was so cold that night. I mean, that was the one that probably broke me from, because I was always with, yes, I want to be able to feel and all this kind of stuff. Well, I still like to have that as long as it's comfortable.
I'm with you, and I'm reminded we did a game at Signal Mountain years ago for Giles County, and yeah, same deal. We were up on top of the mountain, wind just absolutely cutting, and I looked at my partner that night, Chris Bledsoe, and I said, "No, this is for the birds. We need to be indoors if at all possible." So,
hey, and if you can stick that microphone outside, and fortunately, at the college level, a lot of times when a game's on television, they give us their crowd mix, which is really cool because we can get the quarterbacks barking and a lot of stuff like that. And, when you have that, you can get away with having the window shut where it doesn't sound sterile.
Absolutely. Calvin.
Western Kentucky tried to make it as hard as possible to get to that press box. You would take an elevator, but it would only go up like 2 or 3 flights, and then you had to
not go all the way to the top. No,
yeah,
you're right.
You had to get off the elevator and so walk up like 30 rows through the stands.
Yeah,
and then
it took you up to the top of the lower deck, and then you had to walk. You walked out, and you think, here I am. No, you're not. You got to walk up the upper deck, and then when you get to the door of the press box, you think, I'm here. And then there's one more little short stairway that you have to go up. But, I can still remember the days at Floyd Stadium where which Floyd Stadium and Tucker Field in Cookeville were almost identical in a lot of ways, especially in their press boxes. But you got to the press box, and if you were in a radio booth upstairs, you had to go up a circular stairway. And that, if you had any amount of equipment at all, that was a killer to do that. But fortunately, 25 years ago, Middle built the new press box and tower with elevators. Tennessee Tech has they're in the process of building the new side where the press box was. So next time we go to Cookeville in a year or so, it'll be nice. So, yeah, there are stories. There are some places that are more challenging than others.
Absolutely. And Chip, we always love that the history kind of part of this too. It'll be the first ever CUSA meeting, I suppose, at least if nothing else, between the Blue Raiders and Bears tomorrow night. But GoBlueRaiders.com tells me I go back all the way to 1986, the last time that these teams met, and they'll get to do so tomorrow night in Murfreesboro.
Yep, it'll be the first time they've ever played in Murfreesboro. The last time they met in 1986, Missouri State was not Missouri State. They were Southwest Missouri at the time, and the game was played in Springfield. Middle won like 40-19 or something like that. That was my first year of working on the Vanderbilt crew. That was the fall of '86. So I was somewhere with Watson Brown on that day back in September of 1986. But looking forward to it. Got a lot of friends from Springfield, and the thing is, Springfield's not easy to get to from here, but it's going to be I think this will be a pretty good rivalry. I think Middle and Missouri State, I think Western and Missouri State will be good, in particular in basketball, because they've always been good in basketball and were, had their women have been to the Final Four. The men, we've played them in basketball a few times in the last 15 years and helped them open up their new arena there, the Hammond Center. But I think they're Murfreesboro and Springfield, Missouri, very similar size cities, very similar universities. And, now here, get to play, for the first time in Murfreesboro ever. And, they've got a 2-3 team. They've won at Marshall, which was impressive in a close game. Lost a close game to Western Kentucky. They won against UT Martin fairly handily, but lost by 60 to USC. Lost by 18 to SMU, and then, like I mentioned, lost by 5 to Western Kentucky. They have a quarterback who may or may not start tomorrow night, Jacob Clark, who has been kind of their Nick Vattiato over the last several years, but he was injured late in the Western Kentucky game, and they're kind of keeping it close to the vest what his status may be tomorrow night. If he doesn't go, Deuce Bailey, who's a true freshman, ironically from Bowling Green, Kentucky, might be the starter. We'll see.
You mentioned that these teams look pretty even on paper, but obviously not good. It's not that won't be the case without their starting quarterback. But like you mentioned, Missouri State's got a close loss to Western Kentucky, who's a really good team. They've got some good wins. In your mind, what makes MTSU and Southern Missouri even on paper, Chip?
I just
Missouri
think
State,
yeah,
not
Missouri
Southern
State.
Missouri.
They used to be Southwest, but
yeah.
I just think I think where Middle started and where they are now, I think we've seen them get better every week. I was on a radio show this morning in Springfield, Missouri, and they asked me, how would you classify, if you could describe Middle's football team right now? And my answer to them, if I had to use one phrase, unfulfilled potential right now. Because I mean, you go back, you get off to a horrible start at Kennesaw, get down 21-0, but then you out everything them for the last 3 quarters. You make one mistake inside the red zone, turn the ball over that could have given you the lead or tied the game at the time. So, I just think Middle is better than their 1-4 record right now. Missouri State is, I think they've been solid. I think Middle's been solid the last 3 weeks. Did not start off solid, but they have allowed things to get them in behind the 8 ball. And talking to Derek Mason yesterday, he talked about the fact that they had kind of a mini bye week and had 3 or 4 extra days to kind of go do some self-scouting. And I said, what did you find, when you self-scouted and you did some sort of analytics on that? What stood out to you? And his answer was, we need to only play one opponent every week. And he goes, the one in the mirror is killing us. And whether it's a penalty on a punt, whether it's a turnover in the red zone, it's been a matter of 3 or 4 plays that have been their undoing a couple, in this stretch. But they overall, they have gotten much better offensively, put up nearly 400 yards last week, had 10 different receivers catch the football, had a 100-yard rusher in the backfield. So a lot of things that you look for happened in the Kennesaw game, just didn't win it. And, they're going to have to, again, they've been looking to put a 60-minute game together, and that's what they're going to have against. Is you look at these next 3, all 3 midweek games: Missouri State tomorrow, 2 weeks at Delaware, who Delaware has already flexed their muscle a little bit, lost a very close game at home to Western Kentucky, went and just spanked FIU. And then then Middle will wind up the month at home against Jacksonville State, who's been up and down this year. So these are three important games. None of them are non-winnable, and none of them are games that you can't win. So they're all, I think that they'll have a chance all 3 weeks, but you've got to get mistakes behind you.
We're talking with Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice here on Main Street Sports today. Chip, you talked about the self-scouting. Over the first couple of weeks of the season, we talked about how Middle has yet to find its identity. And you talk about that self-scouting. Is that something that they're still looking for?
I think so, and I think they're finding it. And you go back to one thing I mentioned was the 10 different receivers caught balls last week. The previous 2 games to that, 7 different receivers caught passes. So, the idea of what they want to do on offense is to be able to spread it around, spread the defense out, and then run the football with with a good running back or 2 or 3 like Jakail Middlebrook, who had 109 yards last week, and that comes easier if you can get the defense spread out. Now, what they found a little bit in the Kennesaw game is DJ Taylor, freshman from Riverdale, who is the lightning to Middlebrook's thunder. Taylor rather, was the 100-meter and 200-meter state champ at Spring Fling back in May, and he gives you a whole different vibe, that's what the kids say, at running back, because, he comes like he's shot out of a cannon and hits the hole fast. Jakail is more of a plotter a little bit, but still has speed to turn it on. But, it's nice to have a fastball to go with your flat pitch, so to speak. DJ Taylor, first 2 carries were one. The first carry was for 12 yards, second carry was for 10, and so he had 2 really nice carries out of the gate. And and Austin Clemens, who's a redshirt freshman at running back, he is back healthy this week. Haven't seen him all year, or actually we saw him once, and he rushed for one play, and but had to go back out. And also on the offensive line this week, there may be a little bit of movement, and I'm kind of expecting to see Otto Janse van Rensburg, a true freshman out of Sevier County, to move into the starting lineup this week. He's been impressive in what they've been doing, and from his days at Sevier County, winning a state championship in 5A last year, they were a very, very good multiple offensive team, and they were able to run the football behind him. And so he may get called upon this week to play more, if not even start.
That's a guy you mentioned. I remember you referencing him back in the preseason, Chip, and it sounds like he's getting more and more perhaps integrated into the offense.
Yep, and you've had a couple of guys get nicked up a little bit, so they're having to move the chess pieces around the board just a little bit. But what that's going to do is give Van Rensburg a possible opportunity to start at guard, and so we'll see how that works out, because he's a guy who's easy to coach, and I think they're expecting big things out of him at 6'4", 301 as an 18-year-old.
Man, road grader,
yeah,
you might say. Chip, I wanted to ask you too, and I apologize. Thank you guys. Well, I had to step away for just a moment. In terms of the midweek games, we know obviously that's a really neat, and you've kind of given us the numericals behind the scenes at the conference level. Is there any formula that goes into you're slotted for this many, or is it just kind of what the schedule gods kind of spit at you?
Everybody plays 3.
Okay.
The first year, everybody played 4, and it was really hard because there was really no you kind of got thrown into it in that very first week, and you were kind of playing catch up physically throughout. so they've gone back to where it's now 3 games, and so you get a mini bye on the front end and a mini bye on the back end. And but as far as, I'm not sure what the formula is on days, because this week you've got, looking at the schedule, you've got Middle and Missouri State tomorrow night, as well as Liberty and UTEP. One's on ESPN2, one's on CBS. Then Thursday you've got Louisiana Tech in Kennesaw, or at Kennesaw, and Jack State at Sam Houston. So last year we had a 6-game prep for one game. We had a 5-game prep for between games, and we had an 8-day. This year, as it worked out, Middle's 3 games in the midweek are all going to be on Wednesday, and all are going to be at 6:30. So it's a little bit easier from a mental standpoint of, okay, trying to remember what day this is. Like, right now, today is Friday, in the coaches and players, and tomorrow will be Saturday, and then it will, recycle again. But we're open next week. You have a full open date. You don't play for 14 days. And I think all of the teams in the conference are going to come out a little more rested than they did out of October last year, if that makes any sense. I think the league has done some work on how to schedule in October and not wear people out.
Yeah. Because
that was really the biggest issue from the coaches. I mean, it's up to the fans to come out and come to the games. Downside in Murfreesboro this week, it's fall break for Rutherford County schools and Murfreesboro City schools. So there's a ton of promotions that are on deck for the game, a lot in particular for students, but even for townsfolks, like $3 hot dogs, $3 sodas, $2 popcorn, for these midweek games. And they're kind of bending over backwards. You've got a Grateful Dead tribute band playing out in the Grove tomorrow afternoon, late before the game. So all the entertainment pieces are going to be there. Lots of giveaways. So they're trying to do what they can to entice, knowing that a big part of your family audience, especially this week, is out of town, because it is a law in Rutherford County in fall break. You have to go to the beach. That's just part of it. And so everybody, and you have to have a Salt Life sticker on your car. And so that's what's going on this week. But it's going to be, like I said, weather's going to turn out great, and it's going to feel like football weather, and we're, no matter what, we're going to play it tomorrow night at 6:35.
Looking forward to a good one, Chip. Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice. A couple things you just hit me there. Yeah, I've got 2 friends in particular. I'm going to keep them nameless, but they are at a location that you just described a moment ago, and they work in Rutherford County schools. Second of all, I love the visual of, hey, wait a second, I'm leaving my class. Is that Grateful Dead I hear? And just some random folks just stumbling into the Grove. Next thing you know, what is football? How did I end up at this game here? I was not anticipating going to this, but maybe attract a different walk of life, perhaps, to the game tomorrow night.
And it was a long, strange trip it's been, yeah. And so a little trucking and maybe a little, shades of gray, so that's one of the cool things. The bands that are this is kind of a little inside baseball part, make you kind of proud if you're being a mass comm grad at Middle. All of the bands were booked by a class in the Scott Borchetta College of Media and Entertainment that is learning how to book music groups. Yeah. There's a teacher who is like this band booker who teaches this class. And so the students went out, found the bands for every home game, and they booked them. So, and it's a different style of music every game. And so, which is really cool because, whether it's Bad Bunny or Prince or whoever, at some game you're going to find a style that's going to be it's going to be to your liking.
I love that, and yeah, that self-ownership, that's really what I think MTSU does so well. It has done well for such a long time, right? Whether it's on-air talent or classes like that where you're actually getting involved.
Yeah, the partnership between athletics and the Borchetta College of Media and Entertainment on so many levels is really good, and so they kind of work together on a lot of this stuff. And I was trying to look here what I sent you earlier with some of the stuff tomorrow night. Oh, the freshman, they call it the freshman walk, freshman run. It used to be the freshman run. There were some injuries. It's now the freshman walk. Educator appreciation. School teachers can get discounted tickets, poster making competitions, all this kind of stuff. Those are a lot of the things that are going to be going on. We mentioned the discounted tickets. We got Party in the Grove, Raider Walk, and then you've got two things that really go well together, Family Fun Zone and the Beer Garden. So that's all going to be part of the action tomorrow night at Floyd Stadium. Fortunately, they're on opposite ends of the stadium, but our pal Maurice Patton, he has been spotted in one of those two areas, and one of them was not the Family Fun Zone.
I've seen the photographic evidence, whether he claims it or not. I think he owns up to it, but yes, I've seen the evidence of him enjoying all that MTSU has to offer in its game day experience.
You mean Mo hasn't been out there on the bouncy house in the Family Fun Center?
No,
I didn't see those pictures. No,
didn't see those pics. You're exactly right.
Hey, Chip, real quick, you mentioned warm weather. We've talked a lot about golf in the last couple of weeks, and the fall season seems like it continues to really be impressive. What can you tell us about the latest for our Blue Raiders?
Well, Carter Manath, and let's kind of put his story in perspective. The final regular season tournament last spring was over in North Carolina. And his dad and grandparents were flying from his hometown of Texarkana, Arkansas, over to North Carolina to watch him play. They crashed in Bradley County and were killed, his father and his grandparents. A week and a half later, he played in the Conference USA golf tournament. This year, last weekend, they played in Sandestin, and he was the low medalist. Carter Manath was here right at the beginning of his sophomore year. Middle won the event as a team, and he won it as an individual. They go back to Florida this week, and they're playing in Estero, Florida, which I think is near Orlando. And he yesterday fired a 7-under par 65. So Carter Manath, you can go on social media in the MT Athletics page or the men's golf Twitter account, and Emmy Fazenbaker did an interview with him and talking about that whole situation, and he's kind of playing for his parents and doing what his dad and his grandparents would have wanted him to do, and that is really focus on what he's doing on the golf course, and he is playing absolutely lights out right now. It's really an incredible story what he has done after going through such a family tragedy.
Yeah, you described everything right there, and kind of you forget. I know you did a great job of recapping it, but man, it just really kind of tugs at your heartstrings. Just kind of puts into perspective. And you and I, I can't remember if it was Mo or Calvin was with us when this story kind of was unfolding. We talked about, to me, this is one of the things. Yes, we talk about how big of a community and kind of how vast the MTSU reach is, but at its core, it's still a small campus where everybody really kind of looks after each other and takes care of each other. And that was a story that was really, really kind of fully encompassing in that regard last year when that happened.
Certainly was, and Carter is just great kid, and one of those you certainly want to pull for. So they're down in Florida. The women's team also playing somewhere, and they're playing at the Mercedes-Benz, which is intercollegiate, which is in Knoxville, I think. And again, in the fall, you just try to get yourself positioned well and get yourself, ready for your spring season, which that's when you end up playing your conference meet or conference tournament. And that's when the NCAA is. But you can certainly get the chatter going about your team and about your players this time of year.
Absolutely. Calvin, anything else before we let Chip get out of here today?
Chip, is there anything else going on in Blue Raider land that we need to know about?
Just one other little thing. Solomon Sayo, freshman, who this past weekend he had a good meet, a cross country meet in Louisville, and was named the Conference USA Freshman of the Week. And I was going to see where Solomon is from. He is I don't have his full bio. The other thing, speaking of track and field, we continue to talk about Dean Hayes after his passing. And once again, the Hayes family, actually for the third time, has endowed a scholarship that, and I want to make sure I get this correct here. It is a scholarship that will go to a student athlete that, and it's not necessarily a track athlete. And I'm trying to just kind of talk here while I find this out, but it is it recognizes the pioneers of MTSU athletics. I found it here. The 9 original MTSU pioneers are recognized in this endowment, and they are Jerry Singleton, Art Polk, Lonell Poole, Terry Scott, J.W. Harper, Raymond Bonner, Ed Miller, Beanie Sechrist, and Willie Brown. This endowment will allow support student athletes and their families affiliated with the Blue Raider athletic program, with a particular focus on former athletes returning to complete their degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Additional awards may support graduate studies, athletic competition on an international stage. That's meaning if somebody has a chance to go to the Olympics for their home country, that's good. And also one thing that Dean Hayes was very close to his heart, this will also allow emergency grants to student athletes facing unforeseen financial hardships to get a grant for that. Here's a perfect example would have been Carter Maneth. We talked about what he faced this spring had he needed an airline ticket to get home. Those kind of things this is what part of this gift by the Hayes family, Jan Hayes, Kara Hayes, and Aaron Hayes, wife and daughters of Dean Hayes. That's it's just a living legacy of one of the all-time greats at MTSU history, and I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to talk a little bit about that today.
Absolutely. And we thank you for sharing that because, like you said, all encompassing and recognizing and celebrating a legacy that just continues to give on and give back. It's mind blowing, honestly.
It really is. And his family his family's been great with this, and this is just tremendous. So
couldn't have said it any better myself. Chip Walters, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck on the call tomorrow. Hopefully this time next week we are speaking to you in good spirits, my friend. That means the Blue Raiders take care of business. Or
that's right. Well, my partner Joe Dubin was involved in a car wreck on Sunday, and so we're going to make sure he's in good spirits. I've already talked to him. He's going to be ready to go, and so hope we all have a good night.
Looking forward to it, and thoughts and prayers for JoJo on a safe and speedy recovery. Chip, we'll see you next time, partner.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That was Chip Walters, MTSU Blue Raider voice, breaking down all things from, as Calvin called it earlier, Blue Raider land. And hopefully, Calvin, the good news is midweek game, you win that one, man, it just sets the vibe for the rest of the week. You're flying high. You're feeling good. You're rolling into a full-blown bye. The bad news, I'm a little worried about the crowd participation due to Rutherford County being on break, and as Chip alluded to, mandatory. They must evacuate and go down to the beach. That's not just Rutherford County, though. I feel like that encompasses a lot of counties in the state of Tennessee now. But I'm worried about that, and I'm worried what could happen if they do drop that one, because you got a lot of time to sulk if you don't pull that one off. So hopefully we'll be in good spirits the next time that we catch up with Chip. Calvin and I are overdue for a break, but thanks to Chip for joining us again. As always, you can follow him on socials at ChooseChip. When we come back, Calvin and I got a lot to tap into in the grab bag here as we kind of wrap down the second hour of Main Street Sports today. We'll talk NCAA, NFL. We have some the biggest decision of all decisions coming out of the NBA circles. You are not going to want to miss that a little bit later. And Calvin and I close the show with our top 5 dinner guests from the sports realm we would invite. So make sure that you check that out. Come on back, folks. Final 2 segments of Main Street Sports today, where we're presented, as always, by TOA of Columbia.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Right back with you guys here on Main Street Sports today, where we are presented by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Calvin White. I'm Wade Needley saying hello. Also our producer, Mark Rogers, making the magic happen back behind the glass. Time to dip into the grab bag after we just had a good segment with our good friend, MTSU Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Calvin, let's stay in college. Couple quick stories here, including one. You know, we referenced this game in passing earlier, and it doesn't quite have the same cachet that it did before they were defeated at Florida last week. But it is Red River rivalry, Red River shootout for the old schoolers there. That game is going down this week. You know, the corn dogs will be flying. You know, the funnel cakes will be, the size of a football field this weekend at the Texas State Fair. It is Texas. It is Oklahoma. Hearing whispers that John Mateer, yes, that John Mateer, OU quarterback who we thought we wouldn't see for at least a month after having surgery on a broken bone in his right throwing hand. Thought we wouldn't see him for a month, but there's whispers coming out now that he might potentially be getting ready to suit up. 2 questions, Calvin. Number 1, does OU need Mateer to come back to win this game in your mind? And then secondly, should OU rush Mateer back if it means, at the risk of further aggravating this injury in your mind?
Well, I mean, if he's back this soon and it was an injury they were expecting to take 3 or 4 weeks, has it been 3 or 4 weeks since then? I feel like it's been a minute. But
been two weeks since the procedure, so, probably at least 3 since they discovered that. You go back to that game, what was it, against Auburn?
I think so.
Yep, that he injures it and then, plays throughout the rest of the game despite the injury.
Yeah, but I mean, Texas looks beatable right now, and Oklahoma beat Auburn. They put a beating on Kent State last week, or on Saturday, um, and Texas looks beatable right now. I don't know what the quality is of Oklahoma's backup, but um, I think with the combination of Oklahoma being beatable and Mateer possibly being back, that would be a big win for Oklahoma, obviously to stay undefeated, move to 6-0. But it would be probably the best resume booster they would have to date as far as their case for the college football playoff.
Yeah, one of those weird situations. The SEC is so chaotic and so many good teams that as long as you just keep winning games, you're going to be okay. But kind of old school college football thinking is, if you're an OU fan, I know you always want to see Texas lose, but you kind of wanted them to maybe roll in on the heels of a Florida victory in terms of resume booster. But they may not have to worry about that as much. So we'll keep tabs on Mateer. And again, as Chip just left us, he talked about it on last week's show, the institution of injury reports, even at the CUSA level. Keep tabs on those injury reports. SEC puts out, I believe, a midweek and a pregame one. So we'll maybe get a clearer picture, if you will, on Mateer's availability as we roll right along. Calvin, we just mentioned Auburn a minute ago. Found this story interesting. Auburn is moving a 2026 home game with Baylor. Baylor is going to be still playing Auburn. They were set to come down to the Plains, but Auburn has looked at its finances and looked at its pocketbooks a little bit and said, hey, we could use a little more money. And so news coming down, I'm reading from ESPN that Auburn will move its game next year versus Baylor from Auburn to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta as part of an arrangement with the Aflac kickoff game to, quote, provide NIL opportunities for Tigers players. I don't know what the heck this means. I hate the commercialization of college football kind of just as much as anybody. But at least they're being open about their situation here. They're saying, hey, we're moving it for the money. We're hopefully moving it to get some deeper NIL pockets and hopefully try and improve the team. I'll be fascinated to see how it all plays out.
How does a place like Auburn not come up how does a place like Auburn not come up with enough NIL money to where they have to move a football game to a completely different stadium? To my knowledge, I don't think we've heard of something like this yet, which feels weird with all the crazy stuff that NIL has kind of brought into the realm of college sports. But whatever floats your boat, I guess. Everybody's trying to get as much money as they can in the NIL era to go out and buy your roster.
Yeah, and I'm like you. And when I saw this headline, I thought it was initially, we're used to seeing the headline now where teams just cancel games because their conference schedules are already so beefy and you don't really need those extra high-profile non-conference games. But then when you read the story, they're moving this to Atlanta after we saw a crazy, was it week 1 or week 0 game between those two teams? So I found the whole thing kind of interesting. And yeah, I'm like you. Kind of odd that Auburn is just so brazen about this. Like, yeah, we need the money. I'm like you. I thought, hey, don't you guys got money? Turns out Auburn will receive an allotment of nearly 21,000 tickets for the game. Baylor will receive the SEC standard of 3,000 tickets, which is held for the visitors. The remaining tickets will then be sold by the Aflac Kickoff Game Committee. So $21K to Auburn, $3K to Baylor, and the rest private equity type situation here. So gobble it up, and Auburn is punting on a home game versus Baylor. Big news out of the NFL. Big if you're a Bengals fan in particular, Calvin, because the Bengals, we've talked about it for the last month it feels like now. The woes at the quarterback position. Well, the Bengals have finally decided enough's enough. They have pulled the trigger, and they're going to trade for a quarterback. They're going to trade for a veteran quarterback. They're going to trade for a very veteran quarterback. Turns out they've pulled a deal with the Browns. Joe Flacco, who was just demoted to backup duties for Dylan Gabriel last week, flipping a Joe Flacco and a 6th-rounder to the Bengals for a 5th-round pick. Calvin, is Joe Flacco does that get you enough production if you're Cincinnati to maybe kind of right the ship? Because they've looked pretty bad, obviously, without Joe Burrow behind under center, I should say.
I mean, there's a reason Joe Flacco got benched in Cleveland this year. He hasn't been very good, and but I guess if you're the Bengals, you had to go get a different quarterback because the guy that's been playing quarterback for them has been extremely bad. And so we talked about how Cincinnati's backup can just try and hold them afloat to try and at least compete for a playoff spot. Obviously, Joe Flacco's got the NFL experience, but at this point in his career, I'm not sure that Joe Flacco's somebody you can just hand the reins off to and let him lead a team.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I was still banging the drum for Jameis Winston. He's just toiling up there in New York, and they seem content with Jackson Dart as their new quarterback, as it were. And so Winston's still there. Man, we're robbed, I feel like. Flacco, I don't know. This move did not do much in terms of Vegas odds. I was looking at the division odds still, and Baltimore is still your favorite to win that division, but Pittsburgh is slowly marching right up there. Pittsburgh can be had for somewhere in the neighborhood of plus 180, plus 200-ish, depending on where you look. But the Bengals are plus 700, which is not that much far off from where they were entering this. And so, again, Flacco is on the move. I don't know if this – I'm like Calvin. I don't know if this move really elevates them. The main thing is you just want Burrow back as soon as humanly possible because this team does not look the same whatsoever without him. So we will keep tabs on that. Folks, I teased this story earlier, and Calvin was all over this one from the jump yesterday. The long and impressive Hall of Fame, greatest of all time perhaps, career of LeBron James has not been without a little drama, a little controversy, as you might expect. And obviously the height of that was, over a decade ago when LeBron sat down for the decision and famously announced he was taking his talents to South Beach. Obviously received a ton of social media because as well social media criticism and backlash on the way that whole thing kind of panned out. Well, as fate would have it, Calvin, LeBron announced yesterday, he's got an even bigger decision, calling it, quote, the decision of all decisions. And everybody rushes to social media, basically lining up to pay their respects to LeBron, assuming that this was going to be a announcement of a retirement. It was not an announcement of a retirement. Calvin, take it away, my friend.
He said in the post yesterday that he was going to make the decision of all decisions at 11 a.m. this morning. So I'm scrolling on my phone at 11 or like 11:30, and I forget about it. So I search his name in the little Twitter search bar, and it brings up the video. And instead of announcing his retirement, he announced that he is now a partner of Hennessy.
Not retiring.
No, not retiring.
Not changing teams.
Not changing teams. He is a partner of Hennessy now, which is wild.
I'm like you. That's the hoodoo of all hoodoos. He dropped an official tweet. The decision has been made. Cheers to year 23. Which I see what you do there, LeBron. But the spokesman for Hennessy now it pulled the wool right over our eyes, as it were. I was envisioning, the local Boys and Girls Club or, local youth partnership, coming and, Jim Gray going to be back there again for a decision to announce his retirement. No, he's partnering up with Hennessy. So cheers indeed to LeBron, I suppose, on this big news. He will be entering year 23. I found this part, though, fascinating, Calvin. Yesterday, when that tweet drops, I think a lot of folks think this could be the final season for LeBron, and that's why the initial kind of rush on social media, kind of thought that that's what this decision was going to be. But if for some reason you didn't, okay, it is what it is. But once that tweet drops yesterday, I'm reading from NBC News here, the average price of ticket games across all markets increased an average from $250 to $500. So somewhere an average increase of a ticket price from $250 to $500, regardless of what team that you're cheering for, whether it's a game out at Crypto Arena or it's a game, when he comes to your town. Everybody kind of flocks to go buy tickets at an inflated price, and then we got Hennessy on the docket today. So, indeed, cheers to LeBron.
I mean, it's wild if you think about it, because there's people that are my age that have never seen the NBA without LeBron James in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm 23 years old. I was a year and a half years old when he was drafted, right out of high school. I have literally never seen an NBA league that did not have LeBron James playing in it somewhere.
Yeah, LeBron's NBA career is of legal drinking age. That is just wild to think about. Plus a handful, yeah. So he can enjoy all the Hennessy he wants responsibly. Unreal stuff. But I wanted to make sure we get that in there. He might be featured in our next segment, by the way. We're going to breeze through into our final segment here on Main Street Sports today. It is Top 5 Tuesday, and each and every single Tuesday, Calvin and I will give you our top 5 in a sports-related or, pop culture-related category. But before we get into it, folks, if you are tired of buffering and slow internet speeds, then upgrade your life with Columbia Power and Water System Internet. CPWS Internet, you can get lightning fast speeds up to an incredible 1 gig, where you can stream, game, and work seamlessly, all for $70 a month. If you're looking for local service and local support, visit cpws.com or give a call to 931-375-7777 and tell them your good friends at Main Street Sports Today sent you. All right, Calvin, we're going to get this one rolling here. Top 5 dinner guests. They got to be kind of in a sports or sports adjacent realm. We're not building a team with this draft here so much as we're setting a table. So I'm going to give you the first pick here. You got 5 seats for your 5 sports personalities that you want to give. Let's start us off.
Yeah, my number 1 pick was Kevin Garnett. He's my favorite basketball player of all time, and he's a really good storyteller from all the videos that I'm sure people have seen on the internet. He was he's a little bit of a jokester and a partier, but he can also be kind of that alpha dog, like serious individual if you need him to. So I think he will pair nicely with the other 4 people I have at my table.
I like that, and he's got some acting chops, too, from Uncut Gems. So I'm sure he's got some stories that he could fill with too. That is a good pull there with the big ticket being your number 1. My number 1, this guy is the ultimate storyteller, and he's the king in this regard to me. But John Madden, I mean, he's kind of Americana. He could give you stories from so far back, but he could also make things relatable. And, he'd roll up in his bus, as he famously didn't fly anywhere. So, if nothing else, he could have some fun out there on the party bus after. John Madden is my number 1 pick for my dinner party list here.
Yeah, I bet that would really kick the night off, seeing John Madden roll up to your house in his bus by himself. But my number 2 and 3 picks kind of go hand in hand because you can't do one without the other. My number 2 pick is Shaquille O'Neal. We've seen all the clips from even when he was playing and obviously from inside the NBA. Another jokester, another really good storyteller. So I think he pairs really nicely with Kevin Garnett and the other 3 guys that I'm going to have on here. So I'll go Shaquille O'Neal, pick number 2.
Good pull there. Shaq could fill any room, literally and figuratively. So I love that pull there. My number 2, man, I got a couple different ones that I'm kind of just waiting for the right moment to pop out. But my number 2, I'll stay somewhat current here when I say Charles Barkley, because this dude can cover any topic. He can relate to anybody else at the table, and he's going to bring the laughs. Similar to Shaq in that regard, but I will go Charles Barkley. Kind of only fitting we kind of keep our Inside the NBA kind of pairing there together.
Yeah, Charles Barkley was my number 3 pick just because I feel like you have to pair him with Shaq, just from all the bickering and bantering that they've done on Inside the NBA for the last 15, 20 years. And, if we just had a 3-person dinner party with, yourself and Charles Barkley and Shaq, I feel like that would be a party in itself.
Absolutely. So we were in alignment there. My number 3, this one, man, it still don't feel right that this guy's not on the sidelines. But Mike Leach, kind of because of the same deal, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy that's got the attorney chops. He could turn a topic about the NFL or college football into a segment on pirates or, the history of Jack Sparrow in the blink of an eye. He would be able to navigate those, waters better than anybody. Our forever fallen pirate, Mike Leach, would be my next dinner guest.
Yeah, and he had the one press conference about which mascot would win in a mythical fight.
Yeah, I mean, anything is up for grabs with this guy at your dinner table, I feel like.
Absolutely. And fun fact about Mike Leach, P quarterback Chris Parson is the last quarterback that Mike Leach ever recruited.
Little trivia nugget there.
Your Mike Leach fact for the day. But my number 4 pick is going to be one Robert Gronkowski. Gronk at a table with Kevin Garnett, Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley. Rob Gronkowski is probably the biggest partier we're going to have at the table. It still amazes me how Rob Gronkowski got a job as a TV analyst, but he kind of brings that humor effect to the television broadcast, and obviously he was a big partier in his prime, as we know. So I'll go Rob Gronkowski with pick number 4.
I love that one. I got a big personality here, but this guy also brings a lot of wisdom and charisma to the table. Muhammad Ali, in his prime especially. This is, this conversation with him at the table, kind of like some of the ones that are already on there in Madden and Mike Leach. He could take it a number of different directions, but he's also got that unique perspective of being right there as the baddest man on the planet. So give me Muhammad Ali for my pick. Your final pick here to set your dinner table.
I'm going to go with the one baseball player that I probably wish I could have seen play live, like that I wish I could have been alive for. But Ricky Henderson, everybody that saw and interacted with Ricky Henderson always has a good Ricky Henderson story. I imagine it'd be funny watching him talk in the third person with the other 4 people that I have at my table. So I'll go Ricky Henderson, pick number 5.
Absolutely. Great pick. Good pull. Everything you just described is correct, and you're tugging at Mo's heartstrings with that pull right there. That is an elite selection there. My last one, I'd like to think I could manage all these personalities, but really I need to have somebody for sure that can manage them all. So Ernie Johnson would be my last pick. We know he works well with Barkley. I feel like him and Madden would get it off okay. Him and Muhammad could kind of take care of business there, and he could certainly rein in the pirate as he needed to. So Ernie Johnson would be my last pick to kind of steer all that at the dinner. Producer Mark chimes in with Joey Chestnut. I see what you did there, Producer Mark. Yeah, we would have no dinner left if Chestnut were there. That's all the time we got on Main Street Sports today. See Calvin and David tomorrow. I'm out.